All right.
It, last night I had this idea, and this opening from the leg to the divider upright here is 30 inches. And from here to here it's 14 because I used those spacer blocks. I made sure that this stayed consistent. This is a little bit shallower, a little bit less than 14. But so the center point here is 15 inches. And that lands right about here. Is that right? Yeah, right about there. So if I put a little marker here, that's my 15-inch mark on this side. So what I want to do is I want to create these. My X's have to land in the center in order for this to look right. So I had this idea of using kind of the Lincoln log method or the lap joint, and this piece will be a lot easier to finish with this open rather than having these X's in here and having to get into these areas to stain and finish. And my daughter's going to do that, but much easier to do as it is right now. So my thought was finish the piece like this, and then to that add your wine rack. You can put it in there in pieces. So this is going to be the first piece. We'll go in something like that, and then the other piece will come from this side. And as they meet, they'll naturally settle because of the angle that they're cut on that 15-inch mark. They're just 45 degrees, resting against the sides and the bottom. And as you can see, they meet right dead center. It works. And we're going to find out. So I'm going to cut some more. I'm going to mill up some oak. I don't know how many feet of oak I'm going to need, but I've got a few boards. These pieces end up being about a little over 20 inches long. They can't be much longer than that because or shorter because you end up not landing on this point. I got real lucky with these test pieces. So there they are, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 pieces. I need 16. At least that's what I believe. 16 pieces. They're all S4S, jointed, square. You can see this dot is the square corner. This is also the face I ran up against the joiner fence, and then just the opposite on the other side. So, all right, here's my first run at it with a scrap piece of Douglas fir here, but you can see how this just will sit in here like that. It won't be attached or glued. It'll just sit. Now the key thing is to get the other one to match, and you can see I've got a little bit of wiggle room there, which is good, I think, because once you get some finish on here, that's going to make these joints a little tighter. So it just goes together with a half lap joint. And the key to this, getting this joint correct, is to cut it from both sides so that it ends up perfectly centered. So I've set up my miter gauge to make these cuts, Uh,
Here's how I
but
cut my test piece. I just relied on this flip stop that's on my miter gauge. And I had to kind of flip it like about, I don't know, a little over a quarter of an inch away from the fence and rely on that for my stop. And then I made my first pass, I flipped my piece, made my second pass, and then, you know, I could then waste this out. I didn't spend the time to do that on this test piece. I just broke these out, but that worked pretty well. But I don't want to rely on this. And the other thing about it was adjusting it and getting it to this point was, you know, just loosening the knob, being ever so careful. I even went as far as to use just like a business card for an adjustment. So if I wanted to move it that much, that I held on, loosened the knob, moved it over, made another cut till I got it dialed in. This way, it's going to be much better because I've got a positive stop here now that I can hold it against, run my piece, and I can use my fence, my micro adjuster on my fence to get it dialed into that fit that I'm really looking for. And then, you know, same thing here, flip and go. But I'm gonna like this a lot better because this is not gonna move on me, and now I have the adjustability of my micro adjuster on my fence to give me that tiny movement I'm looking for. A lot less sawdust that way too. That's a good fit. No, it's not. See, this is my first piece. The second piece is too loose. Alright, one other factor. I've got these two ends flush. The board thicknesses they're identical. They came out of the planer at the same time. So this is flush back here. Up here, I've got this board just a hair longer. And that would account for this cut being wider. Yeah, this is the one I knocked the notch out of it. So because it's wider, push the blade a little bit over, further over, and that accounts for that. So I've got to make sure when I miter my boards that I do that consistently as well. So I'm going to take, let's see, which one do I want to use here? I want to use the longer one. Yes. Use this board for length, and I've adjusted my setup over a little bit. Let's see, I went that way actually with my fence to make a narrower cut, and I'm confident in my method here, so I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting these, but I've got to make sure that I get these mitered to the perfect length. Alright, these are my first two pieces off of my miter saw in the setup I have over there. A couple of adjustments I made over there as well. This cut that I made on these test boards was far less than perfect. It was not a square cut. And I'm not looking for perfection, but that was way out. So I made an adjustment to my miter saw. I now have a nice square cut across, and then a nice 45 as well. My stops that I've got over there are set up so that they won't move. And when I butt this joint up here, that is, that's within a couple thousandths of an inch of being perfect. And coming off a miter saw, I don't think I could ask for anything better than that. I made some adjustments to this fence to make sure that my piece is square this way. Then I made a slight adjustment to the head of my miter saw to tilt it just slightly back because it was removing more material on the bottom. So this way it cut nice and straight in this direction. Then the other thing I did was I'm adding this clamp to hold the piece so that as the blade comes through, it wants to pull it that way. This assures me that this piece is not going to walk into the blade and also create an angled cut. Then once I'm done here, I slide it down to this stop. This holds it positively in place, and this is nice and tight, and because the blade again wants to push it this way, but the stop is holding it. So that's my setup.